basically what I'm going for here is I want people who, if anybody's interested, I mean, we're not Metallica here, so people might not care. But if somebody does, if they want to know what each of us is kind of into, especially musically, that's kind of the purpose of this whole thing. So when I talked to Nick, I described it like if Monsters in the Mirror is the soup, is the chili, then these 4 episodes are going to represent the ingredients that are put in. Now, sometimes a good chili, you can't really tell exactly what ingredient that is. It all creates something new. But then sometimes, every once in a while, you'll get a bite of jalapeno or something like that. And you're like, oh, I recognize that. That's that one ingredient. So that's kind of my goal for this is like, if I was a fan, like I kind of like my favorite band's Emery. I like getting to know them like as singers, as musicians and everything, because then I hear their influences come through in the music. So when I was talking to Nick, it's like people can listen to our music. And if they hear some Emery screams and they hear some layered stuff, like they're going, oh, there's Dustin. I can tell he pushed for that one. But then when they hear some like brutal Mudvayne type stuff, they know that's coming from your direction. So that's kind of what we're going for. So the idea for me is go back to when you first started learning music. Like what kind of music did you listen to when you first like noticed it? What genre of music? And then eventually like, what's your first instrument that you got into?
Yeah, I mean, Dustin, great point, because I don't even know when it started, but I can tell you I can give you like a sequence. So I think maybe age 5 or 6, I don't know if I watched a movie or something, I learned how to beatbox, like and my mom, and it wasn't that great at the time because it was literally this. Right? My mom's like, what are you doing? Like kind of like penguin, like happy feet. Like what are you doing with your feet?
What's wrong with your feet, boy?
So I think it's like 5 or I think maybe 7 or 8-ish, whatever. But my mom heard me beatbox and I started getting really good at it. And then it led to a little like 4-pad electronic drum set like that lays on the ground. It just has 4 pads you can program. And I'm doing all that. And that goes for like 6 months. I'm getting really good at that. Then my mom, my dad, then finally get me this Eclipse drum set. Actually, believe it or not, we got it from a guy, Castle Music in Norwalk. I remember that. It's actually where Vince lives. But he got that drum set, and I started playing, right, and then getting better and better and better. Genre-wise, I was pretty much into rock, a little bit of rock. Wasn't allowed to watch MTV. It was pretty much VH1. That was my go-to, VH1. And I think what then was cassettes. We weren't even in CDs yet. Like we're just getting into like CDs.
Can you think of any bands like that you would listen to?
Well, before I get to the band, the big one, I was in high school. Okay, so now I'm in high school.
Well, I mean, like what bands did you listen to back then? Like what would you hear when you were a kid that you were like, oh, I kind of like the beats here. I want
to. Savage Garden. There was Do That Thing You Do. It was a movie based on that. It's like the drum beat goes like this. And that was my very first drum beat that I learned on the Eclipse drum set.
So it was like rock, but it was like a lighter rock, basically, kind of like a mainstream rock.
Like real commercialized mainstream rock. Went into high school, got into marching band, all that stuff. So that was kind of like kind of the start learning some discipline within music.
Did you do drums in band?
I did, and I couldn't read a lick of music, so I was really good with listening because I wasn't,
What'd you play?
Quince and Tom. When it came to like orchestra concert, I did snare. We did timpani. So I did that.
So when you got to marching band, you played the quints. Is that what you said?
Yeah, quints.
So 5 of them.
5.
This is so funny, dude. Nick did the exact same thing, and I did the exact same thing.
That's funny.
So we all we got to talk to Vince. I'm excited to hear what his story is because we were all in marching band. We all played drums, and I was snare, and then I went up to quads eventually. And it's just kind of like, it seems like in our little schools, because we were people who cared about music and wanted to do it like as a band eventually someday, like we're the ones who end up playing quads and quints and all that stuff.
It's very funny because Vince and I were in the same band, actually. We were in marching band together.
Oh, were you? So he was in marching band too then?
Yeah, because I was like 3 or 4 grades below him.
We got to do something like that with I didn't realize that all 4 of the members of MITM were in marching band together.
Yep.
So we need to like do a drum line or calling EP the Marching Band Days or something like that. That'd be cool.
I'd love it. The big one is like, okay, how do I even get, like, why do I even want to be in a band? Like, because otherwise it was just drums, right? I didn't really put two and two together. Like, wait, I want to be in a band.
Right.
What really stuck, like, I think it was, let's see, eighth grade? Yeah, 8th grade year. Pastor Bart through church took us to go to the Live Festival. And that was my very first concert I've ever been to. And when I heard like Spoken and Reliant K, Pillar, all that jazz, like I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this. Like, and do you think it was the music that grabbed you, or do you think it was the performing on stage that grabbed you, or maybe all of it? All of it. I knew, okay, I love drums because I remember playing in my room. My eyes are closed, and I'm like, I'm playing in front of thousands of people. I had this imagery of who I'd be, what I would do, and that festival just totally locked it in. I was like, so my brother, he was in the band with me at Saturday. Vince. He said, Josh, let's do this, man. So he's on bass, I'm on drums. Like, we need a guitarist. So he meets this guy through school, real meek guy, Vince Jackson, and pulls him in. And from that day on, it's been.
And that was your first band?
First band. Saturday was.
So
some people actually crazy. On our Facebook page, Ashley, she posted, and Carrie, they actually have the original, one of the CDs that we sold.
Dude, that's cool. So you've been in bands with Vince from the beginning.
Yeah, ever since it was a thought.
That. Wow.
So that was real cool. And it gets to the point where I don't know, like you peak sometimes in life. Like you pick something up just to later put it away and never pick it up again. It's a double-edged sword for me because I take great pride in continuing something that I've built. That people have supported me, right? Not just to say it was a moment of time. Like I feel pride to say that I'm still doing it.
You don't want to let it die.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because sometimes it can be in a seasoning that you're in.
Yeah. Sometimes you're holding on to something that's gone maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Like the dad bod, your body that you left with high school, college with, do you still have it? Maybe it's a principle. Maybe it's something that you built that's a part of your identity that makes you you. And it's your roots in a way.
I can see that. That's why I don't think I could let music go, because that's something I cared about so much for so long. Like, when I'm just going to let go of my identity. That's tricky though. I mean, so I'm interested, like, you're our vocalist, obviously, and you're a really good vocalist, but you started in drums. When did that transition happen? So in Saturday, you were playing drums, right? So who was doing vocals in Saturday?
So Vince was vocals. Everyone sang and played because we were a 3-piece band, so we had to fill it up the best way we can. Way. So he was singing. He was in choir. He was a musical genius. Even then just had a natural knack for it. I sang backup, and like I said, was not trained, whatever. I just had Vince with a nice face or dirty face looking back at me if I got a note right or wrong. So that's kind of how I learned. So when Vince and I had a falling out, I think it was either 10th grade in high school, something happened where we basically split. He left Saturday. Oh, wait. My mom kicked him out of the band. That's right. My mom kicked him out of the band.
Highlight of the story.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
He was going on a path that my parents did not want us to go down. My parents were very, they did the best they could. They want to make sure we're on a straight and narrow. And like I said, I'll never say they're wrong on that. Yes, it can be done different ways, but their intentions were good. So my mom boots him out of the band. He joins this band, right? Because I'm like, man, my best friend, right? Mm-hmm. So that's double whammy. He now leaves. He joins a band with Brian Sutter. I forget was it not Before Their Eyes? No, that's
from around here.
That's Chris.
That's Finley.
Yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of Before My Eyes.
That's Chris.
That's current. Yeah. Before Their Eyes, a really big scene band when I was a teenager.
But Whatever. He joins that band, and all of a sudden, like, they start playing, and I get extremely jealous. So somehow, like, through all of our Saturday concerts, Chaz Van Fleet and Wes Newmeyer were going to all of our shows. Wes was slowly learning drums.
So real quick, sorry, let me jump in. So he's playing guitar and he's doing vocals, and then he's kicked out of the band. So what was Saturday at that point? Just bass and drums, or did you find
nothing? Well, it died. It was dead.
So you guys just didn't play any more shows because you couldn't replace Vince.
Yeah, and then what happened was there's these two guys. It'd be cool if we show some photos. Chaz Van Fleet and Wes Newmeyer. Saturday had a lot of shows. My parents supported us a lot. We got a lot of shows. Mm-hmm. These guys were with us all the time. Like, they're kind of like our, like, not groupies, but good friends.
Yeah, part of the group.
So Wes was learning drums this whole time. So it got to the point where Vince left. Wes was like, dude, I'll drum. So here I am off the drum set. Even found another guitarist. We called him Chuckles. Red freckled, redheaded guy, great guy. He filled in guitar, and we write this little song, and I write on guitar. It's so weird. Mm-hmm. Just a little like what I did in PTSD. PTSB, not D.
That's something else.
Yeah. So there's this Attica Fair that we're trying to prepare for as Saturday, right?
So you're on vocals now?
I'm on vocals now, just on vocals. Dwayne, he had a sound company, so that was another foreshadow to like things yet to be. He provided sound for the Attica Fair, so they had this battle of the bands. So Wes Newmeyer, Josh Collins, Chuckles, me, get up there, and I'm on the vocals, and here's my official stamp on Eric Collins, front man. And from that point, I never went back.
And then you doubled down. Like, I mean, so I know at some point you got into like the zen of screaming, and then you started really focusing on developing your voice as an instrument. Did you go hard on that in Saturday, or was that to come later?
That was to come later, because when the new Saturday didn't last long. Vince left that band, something happened, and then we rejoined, leading the wake. So now a new roster. Okay, we've got Josh, we've got Vince, Josh on bass, Vince on guitar, Wes on drums, me on vocals. Now we're getting more into metal. So now we're need another guitar. So then we get some of the Willard crew to come in.
So what was your genre like in Saturday? If you're now getting into metal, what was it Saturday?
It was rock getting towards metal.
Okay, yeah.
Because at one point there was just I screamed, because Saturday, this is when Mudvayne started to show to flash itself. Mm-hmm. That's when Chevelle, Seven Dust already said, like, right. Vince like that, I like that. We started getting into the screaming, implementing it like the rock bands do. So you were kind of gradually increasing your heaviness until this next band, Leading the Wake, and that's where you just embraced it and got a lot more. Yes, Leading the Wake started around, I think, 10th or 11th grade. That's when I started to get into screaming and singing. The Zen of Screaming, Melissa Cross. Mm-hmm. Melissa Cross, she was the Zen of Screaming instructor. Killswitch Engage started to flare up. Like, I remember the day we're playing Halo. It's, Mountain Dew and Halo. Chaz comes over. It's like, dude, you got to hear this. Puts in Killswitch Engage. What is it? The End of Heartache? What's the very first album? Oh, I don't know their music. Dude, we listened Last Serenade. Oh, dude, we listened to it and we're like, oh, like grabbed on the scene, grabbed. And we were chasing that, like. So Killswitch is really what grabbed you. I mean, Killswitch, it just opened the door to the whole metal. We list, Mudvayne, Killswitch Engage. I could list 1,000 bands after that, but that's the start. That's awesome. So with Leading the Wake, how involved were your parents in this one? This was the Great Divide. This is where my parents spent a lot of money on my first PA system. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find our own way. So now we're going to shows without them. We're borrowing the van. We're kind of developing ourselves, our autonomy. Independency. Which was good. They never really understood why the transition, why the metal scene. It took a lot of years, and fortunately good bands out there. Pillar, For Today, Project 86. It's these solid bands that are Christian bands, like, you know, because that's my cloth. That's where I come from. I can't deny that. I mean, it's been 20 years, and my mom still hasn't got it, but my dad's slowly getting it. So like, what metal, what it's for?
Like, why metal? Why, like, yeah. Why do you have to scream? Why do you have to do all this aggressive stuff?
I'm glad you bring that up, because it's been like, since with our new stuff, MITM, a lot of people at work, I'm 35, my wife listening to it, her family, whatever, like, they just don't get it. And this is the best part. Like, and I get chills saying it. Like, so you mean to tell me, like, okay, yeah, metal's not your thing. You might like country, you might like rap, you may like symphonies, orchestras, right? You mean to tell me in the whole span of human emotion, you never scream? You've never got to the point of screaming? You never, when you had something really bad happen to you and you tell somebody for the first time after bearing it for 20 years that you don't want to scream? Yeah, you can't scream all the time, but you start out like a scream, and then it gets into a calm voice, and then it gets into a whisper. But when things come out, the human response, like of anger and betrayal, or even love, it comes out in the most extreme form, a scream, not tone, not vibrato, just power. And that's what it is, like, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people probably have never screamed, like, and maybe that's kind of part of the not understanding metal is like, I think everybody has wanted to scream. I think everyone's been at that point of betrayal, of loss, of all that stuff where you feel it in you, but you don't let it out. You just keep it in. And maybe that's what's so therapeutic and almost euphoric about screaming, is that you let it out. And that's why listening to that music, when you hear somebody else let it out, it almost feels like you're letting it out. And I know what you're saying.
See, I used to think for a long time, like, people like, oh, you're listening to angry music because you're angry. No. I didn't realize this. Like whenever you listen to angry music, you get all like feisty and angry. I was like, actually, no. Remember those times where you're carrying something, you got something inside you, you can't identify it. Like, I don't know what it is, man. It's eating me. It could be a moment, something said to you, a song, a genre that literally taps into that, right? Finds that spot. So maybe it's resentment, right? And a song is literally depicting that and literally hits that in your heart and then brings it out. People are like, oh, wait, oh no, this is bad. Actually, no. Don't miss this. This is where healing begins. Getting what is inside you out. And that's what role music has in my life. Like, yeah, you can have projects, you can have like working in fields, working on cars, painting, poetry, prayer, meditation, kids, like all those things. One of my ways of getting that out is music.
Right. I think a lot of people identify with that too. I mean, I think that's why we all listen to heavy music, is feeling that. And that's a good way of explaining it too. I'm going to point people to this podcast in the future. The next time they're like, hey, Dustin, why? I mean, okay, like, you got a band and everything. Why you guys got to scream? I'm like, well, here, just listen. I got an episode for you. I'll direct them here.
And that's another thing, like, and I haven't talked to you about this before, but even when we write future songs, like, I'm even going to get into the point where I don't want to scream a full verse. It kind of defeats the purpose. Whatever I cannot sing, I want to scream. So like, if I'm saying along these words, like, I loved you, but you betrayed me. Like, if it hurts so much that I can't even sing it, then I'll choose to scream it because I can't sing it.
Right.
I'll sing what I can sing. I'll scream what I can scream. What I can only scream.
I love that. I think that's the similar page that we're all on. When Nick and I talked, we both are kind of like he and I are always kind of pulling the band towards the singing end of the spectrum. Like, we love heavy music and everything, but we tend to like music that has like 75% clean vocals and then 25% like screams and everything. And I'm noticing when I go to shows that like the bands that sing get the best response because not everybody can sing and not everybody can scream either. That's a very unique talent, but the fact that we can do both is very cool. So I really like that idea. Like, why are you screaming it? Because it needs to be screamed. I can't sing it.
I can't sing it. My dad, like,
that's a good response.
He can't, like, it can't come out. Like when I said it, sometimes that's the only way it can. Scream.
It's the best response. Why scream it? Because I can't sing it. Well, what are you talking about? You got a vibrato. I just heard you sing like 3 songs beautifully. Yeah, that's not the point.
I can't. Like, I've already told you that I love you, but you won't hear me. So I'll scream it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. All right. So leading the wake, getting us back on track. So you guys played a bunch of shows. And I heard a lot of your songs from Leading the Wake, and they're solid. I remember they're really good. I also really love the band name. So what happened from there?
Life continuum. College came. Yeah, and then life, like, obviously, like, responsibilities, college, time. Now you're getting out of the dream world and
into reality. Got to pay the bills.
Yep. Obviously, we all came from a lot of broken homes, so we had a lot of baggage, and we kind of ate each other, like tore each other apart. Me, like, I was a hothead. I was trying to work things out.
Weren't you kind of? I've heard Vince say before you were kind of like I've been in my past. Like, we got to do it this way. You got to get this done. You got to, like, kind of like dictator mode.
Absolutely. I was definitely really strong-willed, very driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I lacked grace in that. Yeah, it's
funny when you work with a group of people. There's so much to learn. I mean, you can't just get with people and it works. Maybe some people you can, but that's something I've learned with you because we've been in 2 bands together, and me working with people, I've always been so bitter against humans in general. Mm-hmm. And you've taught me the art of, like, grace and patience and seeing things from where they're coming from and understanding that, like I texted you the other day, maliciousness is not actions are done not with malicious intent, but often out of ignorance. It's often like they don't know any better. Like, these people do things this way because that's all they know. Like, they were raised that way or whatever. And that's helped me understand the human condition. And I think that's why we are functioning so well as a band now, because our own band has had some issues, which we can explore in further podcasts in the future, because that'd be kind of fun to talk about. But it's more than music. It's also working with people. Everything's
linked. It's like you working for a common goal. You have your job and you have a team. You have family and that's a team. Right? How well do you function as a team? Everyone's different. Thank God they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has flaws. Thank God they do. All right. And you know what? What happened? This didn't fix anything. It didn't fix anything. When Paint the Sky Black broke up, when Leading the Wake broke up, everyone went independent. Fine. I don't play well with others. Vince Jackson starts Jackson Recordings. Aaron Collins starts AC Sound. You start Bloodthirsty Pugs. You start D. Scott Farms, the farms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, fine, I'll do it myself. But we didn't fix anything. And this band really revealed our wounds, I feel.
Maybe the independence gave us time to reflect. It gave us time to, like, all right, I'll do this by myself. And then doing it by yourself, you realize how much you need everybody else. And then you start to think about, well, if I need these people, why didn't it work? So then you start to work through, like, oh, okay, I wasn't very patient. I wasn't very graceful.
Hindsight 2020.
So to finish the story, kind of, so Leading the Wake breaks up, and that was kind of like everybody was kind of on the same page, like everybody got busy. Is that? Or just kind of everybody started to clash personality wise and things kind of fell apart?
I don't remember the specific moment, but I remember Vince, because our last show was at Kalahari. And one thing you gotta be careful of, in my limited experience, whenever you're the closest when you're almost on top, that's when things get most fragile. Right, our last show at Kalahari, like, it was clicking. There was no mistakes. They were loving us. People that wouldn't love us loved us. But yet it was our last show.
Right.
People weren't up to the expectations, up to snuff. So Vince, I think, ends up pulling the trigger first. I follow suit, and the band liquidates.
So then, was the next band Paint the Sky Black?
Yeah, I didn't do it until then. I went into college with Jesus Saves Project. I went on to acoustic albums with Vince. Him and I stayed in contact through college.
But that was pretty much you being your independent thing, was like the Jesus Saves Project.
Yep. So and then you got a hold of me.
So what was the time span? So from leading the wake to when I met you, was that like 2 years?
Because I think it was my freshman year in college is when Leading the Wake finally took a break. Oh, wait, one more band that never took off. Before Creation. I always called it crenation, like cellular shrinkage, when it meets a solution that causes all the water to move out of the cell to shrink, like crenation.
Crenation. Nobody knows that word, but
no,
you medical people.
Now
they do.
Before Creation. So Chaz and Wes were in that. So sorry, Leading the Wake, Before Creation, the Jesus Saves Project, now PTSB.
I see.
Now Monsters in the Mirror.
So Before Creation, what was the genre of that? Was it another heavy?
Yep, heavy.
Kind of trying to continue Leading the Wake without Vince, basically, or
Vince was in it, and we had Adam Cox. That was funny. That guy, curly hair. He's a nurse now, but yeah, he filled in for guitar at Before Creation, and that was it. I mean, barely even.
So you haven't been able to keep yourself away from music. I mean, it's. The gaps, you've been in a band your whole life, pretty much. I mean, the gaps are like 6 months to a year, it seems like, before you get the itch and you're like, I'm missing something. I got to get back to it.
Absolutely. AC Sound was that whole like, okay, fine. If I can't be on stage and I can't somehow work with others, fine. I will produce them. So that's where you and I
That's where we met. So I'll talk a little bit because you've been talking a lot. So at this point, I had joined a band, and I'll talk about my story in another episode, but I had got the itch as well, and I didn't want to be the guy running the show because I ran the show in my first band and I got burnt out, and I'll give more details later. But I saw this band started by these guys from Findlay. They're great guys. They're still great guys this day. They were auditioning guitar players or singers, like one or the other, and I can sing and play guitar. So I was like, I'm going to try this. I'll try for one of them. Maybe I'll get one spot. So I auditioned for them, and I got in as the guitar player, but they wanted something different for vocals. They wanted something more full-bodied and more somebody who could scream. And I wasn't quite there yet. My voice is kind of thin. It's more pop kind of, vocals, clean vocals or whatever. So then when I officially joined up with them, we started looking at vocalists. Like we needed a vocalist. That was the biggest thing we were looking for. And we auditioned a bunch of guys, and I don't remember all their names, but we had guys show up to practice and kind of give us their style. And I was very surprised at the different styles of like vocalists that there are. Like the guys that, like there was one guy who was really into Bush, which I'd never heard of Bush, but they kind of have like this really gravelly voice. So everything he sang, he talked like this, like how I'm talking, but when he sang, he had a lot of grit and a lot of gravel to it. And
don't let the days go by.
Yeah, it was
glistering.
Like, yeah. And it was like over the top. Like for me, I wasn't really a huge fan of it. So we auditioned a bunch of guys, and I remember, the best part about our story is the day that I met you, we saw you. I don't even know how, if you just like said, hey, I'm interested. I might be. But Jordan,
it was a Facebook post video.
Yeah, we posted a video saying, "Hey, we're looking for blah blah blah," and Jordan, the drummer that it was in the band, told me, he's like, "Yeah, I got this guy. He's in an acoustic project right now, but I think that he's got the voice. He could do some heavy stuff." And he told me about you, and we listened to Jesus Saves Project and a bunch of songs and everything. And then when I met you, we decided to meet up for an interview at Panera Bread, and I was there with Jordan and Tyler, and then you walk in. and you conducted the interview. It was the funniest thing ever. I mean, the three of us are sitting there, and like Tyler's fairly introverted. I was very introverted at the time, and Jordan was kind of leading the show. I think that's how I felt, at least. And you know, you walk in and we asked like one question, and then once you started talking, it was like the floor was yours. You're like, yeah, here's what I'm about. Here's what I do. All right, so what's your guys' story? Hey, Jordan, tell me about you. And you just, I mean, you conducted the whole thing. And then at the end, when you left, we were kind of like, our eyebrows were raised. And we're like, wow, that guy's confident. Oh, okay. Yeah. And when we talked about it. And then I remember I didn't like you at first because of your confidence, because I always had an aversion to confidence. I mean, I was told my whole life, like, confidence is bad. And so I was nervous about you. I was like, man, this guy is just going to walk on me. And then you met us at it was a church in Findlay, I think. And it was kind of like a gymnasium that we set up.
Carpeted area.
Yeah. And we set up all of our stuff, and we had like, I think we had a mic and stuff, just some loudspeakers so we could hear you. And then we just played our riffs and then just had you vocalize, just do what you feel. We had a vocal part written that we thought was good, but you came in and we were just like, do what you feel. And you wrote something completely different that was phenomenal. Like the notes that you chose, the vibrato in your voice, it was like the melody was like a minor key, and then you would go right into a scream at different points. And it was just, I don't know. It's funny. I remember Brian Head Welch wrote a book about his story, and in his story he describes what it was like to meet Jonathan Davis for the first time, their lead singer. And it was a very similar experience for me. It was like when you have the guy and he's in the room for the first time and he does what he does, you just know. And so that's kind of what it was like for us. So that was a really cool moment. So then how much do we say about Paint the Sky Black? Paint the Sky Black was good. We played a good amount of shows. Our music was, Vince helped us record it. Mm-hmm. That we were quite heavy. We had clean vocals. We had screams. Mm-hmm. We played a lot of churches. We were still very much like a Christian rock band kind of thing. And then I don't know how you describe how we split.
The studio revealed our weaknesses, and then after that, we were trying to get better and evolve.
Yeah,
we basically peaked.
And I think that was my moment of dictatorship. It was in that band was where, like, you know, I was still learning people and learning how to work with people, and I just had so very little patience with Jordan and Tyler and very little grace. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they would mess up, I would call them on it. I'd get butthurt. I'd get all whatever. And I know I've learned a lot from that for sure. But I would really put the pressure on, like, hey, we're supposed to be getting better. You didn't do that thing. You said be a man of your word, all that stuff. And so then it was another kind of, at least out of this, you and I kind of was like, yeah, you know what? I don't think we want to do this anymore. And we had talked about, like, worst case scenario, we can still do music together in some way. Mm-hmm. And that's when we did AC Sound, right? Yeah. We're like, well, F this, like, we'll do live sound for a while. And that was fun.
That was a blast. And you know what? Still is a blast.
It's still there.
Still there.
That's that dream that we don't want to let go of. Mm-mm. So then from there, we do AC Sound for a little while. And then once again, it's pulling us back. We can't not be in a band together. And like we could have done acoustic stuff, but there's something that draws us to being able to express ourselves in the full dynamic range, right? Like we want to be in a band, and we talked about this a lot, that can write a song like Beautiful, which we have on Spotify, that's just bare bones, it's no screams, it's very low dynamically, but gorgeous song. But we also want to be able to write good old fashioned beatdown. I mean, go to the tops dynamically. Absolutely. And so then from there, it was meet back up with Vince, start recording across the nation.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we started. Like, first we tried to renew Shatterday. We tried to bring it back. Like, hey, this is Shatterday Reborn. And we recorded our first song, Silent Killer, which is on Spotify somewhere. And we did that across the nation. We would record the raw tracks. We'd send them to Vince over in Arizona, and we're here in Ohio. And he would edit it, and we'd go back and forth. This was like remote work before remote work was cool.
Yeah, like
this is before the pandemic and all that stuff.
Facebook chat, team viewer, like
technical difficulties through the roof.
Oh.
That was, yeah, I mean, talk about hardships. I mean, we struggled through that. And Silent Killer, I still love. I mean, Vince has grown so much in his recording quality now that our new songs sound like a lot better, but I still like really love Silent Killer. So then the whole story from there is something that we'll just have to talk about in another podcast, I think, because it's deep and involved in conflict in humans and everything. But basically that Shatterday evolved into what is now currently Monsters in the Mirror. And that was Nick joining and bringing everything he brings to the table and his influence and putting our heads together and creating this final product where we've all worked out our people issues. And now we're able to do this thing where we practice regularly. We show each other grace. We have all of our songs recorded, and now we're at the stage of just trying to get out and play shows, like out of the basement finally.
Amen to that.
Do you have anything else to add? Has your music taste changed at all since you got into metal? Has it like evolved much more? Or are you kind of at the peak and you're staying there?
Do I eat the same steak?
I don't even know.
You change it up, right?
Change up
the palette changes. I mean, I'm listening to like symphony, like really, really soft, gentle stuff, and I'm listening to really heavy stuff. I'm just like a chef. Like I can't turn down an ingredient whether I like it or not.
Right.
I need to figure out, okay, where can I use this? So it's really broadened. Like I can't say I won't say I don't like country. I don't like rap. Like I appreciate all music because I am an artist. I'm a chef. I'm a creator.
Right.
I'm not going to turn down ideas.
I love that.
Or flavors.
So we might write a country song someday.
Yeah, if I stay out here long enough at D. Scott Farms, I might have a little bit of like, my R's might change.